Hoist the flag. Salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Thank you so much to our Central High School Naval Junior ROTC for being with us this evening and serving as a reminder of this anniversary of September 11th, for all of us to remember and thank all of those who serve our country and defend our freedom. So thank you, students, for being here. Are there any elected officials in the audience? I don't think I see any. Okay. Board members, just a reminder that several of us are scheduled to attend the TSBA Fall District East meeting next Tuesday, September 17th at Maryville High School. Registration begins at 4:30 and the meeting starts at 5 p.m. Ms. Coatney will be sending an agenda by the end of this week. Our annual board workshop is scheduled for Thursday, September 26th and Friday, September 27th. We are finalizing the agenda and location, and we will share that information as soon as it is available. Please note that our October meeting dates are slightly unusual due to fall break, which is October 7th through the 11th. Our work session is scheduled as normal the first Wednesday of the month on October 2nd, but our regular session meeting will be held the week following fall break on the third Wednesday, October 16th. Board members, as a result of discussion at last week's work session, you received an email yesterday with revised versions of policies D280 and J194. Those have been attached to the electronic agenda. When we get to those items, we need to be very specific with our discussion and any motion regarding which version is being referenced. For policy D280, there are two versions, with version 2 being the one we received yesterday. Policy J194, there are three versions, with version 3 being the one you received yesterday. Are there any other requested changes to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The board met last week in a called meeting to take care of reorganizing the board for 2019-20, but due to several unforeseen circumstances, only 6 board members were here. We completed the election of board chair, and I thank you again for placing your confidence in me. But we had 2 nominations for the board vice chair, and that ended in a tied 3-3 vote. A motion was made and passed to delay the election of vice chair until this meeting with the full board present. Once nominations are complete, I will request a roll call and ask that you state the name of the board member of your choice for vice chair, and the floor is now open for nominations. Ms. Bounds.
I nominate Jennifer Owen.
Okay. And Ms. Christie.
I nominate Virginia Babb.
Okay. Any other nominations? Oh, yes. And would anyone care to second those nominations? Okay, so we have a second on Ms. Bounds. We need a second on Ms. Bounds' motion.
I'll make a second.
Okay, Mr. Norman seconded, and we need a second on Ms. Christie's motion. And Ms. Hill is seconding Ms. Christie's motion. Okay, and if we have any discussion. Okay, seeing no discussion, Ms. Courtney, if you'll do a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Satterfield?
Bab.
Ms. Owen?
Owen.
Mr. Norman?
Owen.
Ms. Babb?
Bab.
Ms. Hill? Ms. Bounds?
Owen.
Mr. McMillan?
Bab.
Ms. Christie?
Bab.
Ms. Horn?
Bab. Okay,
That's 6 votes for Ms. Babb and 3 for Ms. Owen.
okay, so Ms. Babb will be our new vice chair, and if you would like to go ahead and join me at the front. Okay, and now I would like to refer to Ms. Courtney for the reading of the agenda items.
Item 5, consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Norman, second by Hill. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
6A, approve first reading of new Knox County Board of Education Policy D-280, fundraising activities.
So moved. Second.
Do we have a second? Okay, and can you clarify which version, Ms. Hill, that you're making a motion to approve?
It's the version most recently submitted in our
Okay. So
email from
version
Ms.
2.
Courtney. Yes,
Okay, version 2, thank you. And do we have a second? Ms. Christie seconds. Okay, and discussion.
Oh.
Ms. Bounds?
Oh, I was just going to ask, I thought we were going to have a public speaker to come speak to that. Do we have one for public forum?
Okay, Ms. Vice Chair, yes. Thank you, Madam.
Calling Jim Dingus up. Hi. If you'll just state your name and county, and then you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Okay, yeah, I'll be brief. My name is Jim Dingus, Knox County, in the Halls community, and just speaking about the online fundraising ban that was put in place by the state of Tennessee, and where we are in regard to writing a policy to allow SSOs to fundraise online. This has been known about for a while. We're still working on that policy, and I appreciate all the work that you guys have put in to get us to that place, and I noticed there was more change in that today as well, so I know we're getting closer to that, but we, as an organization, rely on that online fundraising for a big portion of our expenses. Without that portion, we average about $9,000, $9,000 to $10,000 a year for online fundraising. And without that, we need to pay for buses. We have like $14,000 worth of buses to pay for in the next couple of months. And we always do our online fundraising in the beginning part of the year when there's that enthusiasm and better opportunity for more people to do that. It's our way to reach out of town of people, grandparents, aunts, uncles. And without that opportunity to do that, without this policy being written to allow us to do that, it leaves a gaping hole in our budget. So anything that can be done to move that along would be greatly appreciated. And for us, time is of the essence. At the end of the semester, we lose half our people. So a spring fundraiser for that would only net maybe a half of what we have. So I'm not here to ask for any money from the board, which is a good thing, right? I'm not here for anything, just asking for us to be, the handcuffs to be taken off of us and allow us to fundraise. All that money that we do, we use the SnapRaise platform, and all of that money is traced. There is no way to fraud anyone in that situation. We have a board of directors that we do. All of that SnapRaise money, you can trace for the email, name, number. They have to enter everything before they can donate anything. So we can trace that money. Then we go through a treasurer, president. Then we do IRS, external audits. We have an external auditor come in. So this thing that is kind of conflating it with a donor choose program that I know has had some fraud, I feel like that is not the same thing. It's not really apples to apples on that. So that's I'm here is just to try to move that issue along and bring it to the attention of everybody that we as an organization really rely on that. It's become something with the technology that we really just need to have. So with that being said, I know that funding from the county is like 0.05% of our budget. So it's not really, we have to fundraise. And with our fees only cover about 31% of our budget. So the rest of that has to be made up by our organization. Our SSO has to pay the other 69%. So we need the online fundraising. So.
Thank you. I'm sure you speak for many. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Can I ask a question of the speaker?
Certainly.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Dingus? Just because you are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, do you feel like the policy that is being looked at today meets the needs of your organization?
Well, the policy as I see written does not specifically address SSOs. It looks like it has individual schools may establish online fundraising accounts and everything else, but it doesn't necessarily give guidance to what SSOs can do.
Okay. Mr. Dupler, can you address
Thank you.
that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dubler?
Thank you, Ms. Bebb. Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, it does not, specifically mention SSOs, but SSOs have to already have a process that goes through the principal and of the individual school where the SSO is the support organization, and then has to be approved by the director of schools or his designee. So although SSOs are not specifically mentioned, this proposed policy does indeed cover SSOs, and Mr. McPherson and I have worked on this together, and I'm sure we can turn to him to verify that. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Dupler. If I may, and I'll let you answer that question, and also, and then I have another question. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to have to lean into Renee here. Sorry about that. My understanding aligns with Mr. Dupler's as well. Here's one thing I could say though, is that again, as we all understand, this is first reading, so we can dig a little more into this, and if we feel there needs to be a little bit more clarification with respect to SSOs, we have plenty of time to do that. So my understanding would be, since it may originate at the SSO level, but when the request is made, the principal, if it runs through the school books, then the principal would be the one kind of on point here to ensure that those funds are accounted for properly. So if we need to provide a little more specificity behind this provision, I can work with Mr. Dupler and kind of talk some more about this. We'd be perfectly happy to do that.
I think that it does. There are still a lot of questions because it's not clear, and I don't think it's going to be clear to our schools what is expected. I wish that had already been done, because they need to be raising funds right now. So,
right. So the problem we've had all along is the delay. is we've been trying to figure out ways to kind of balance this out, so to speak, because of online fundraising also has some inherent risks associated with potential loss of internal controls, and even possibly employee liability, with the fine print that an employee would, or the owner of the account, whether that's employee, principal, whoever, would agree to the terms and conditions on in using that account. And so essentially, the person on that account the employee would essentially indemnify that crowdfunding vendor, and so that's part of the delay in this, is that But at some point, we had to just come to grips with the fact that, this may be the best we can do. And so, I really feel badly for a lot of the schools and the agencies, but we were trying to figure out ways to actually have some safeguarding in there and some protections for them, but we understand the need that we need to move as quickly as possible. So this was about the best we could do to meet that.
Okay, and I have one other question on number 8, which is, I think that was added from the version that we saw last week. It says a fundraiser summary report is not required when a fundraiser is conducted, blah, blah, blah. So can you just make sure I understand that portion clearly?
Yes. So that actually is straight from that one line, is actually in accordance with the Tennessee Internal School School Uniform Accounting Policy Manual, whatever, right? So, so that next sentence is we talk about a fundraiser summary is prepared and filed at the school at the conclusion of one with a designated purpose. So the thought was to add some clarifying language behind this. So we felt it was important that fundraisers conducted for the benefit of a specific purpose have an accompanying profit and loss report, that they would file that, because it was kind of an open-ended, I guess you could say it was kind of open-ended, to just leave it at, hey, one's not required, when it's like the general operation of the school. It's not. But we also, so we acknowledged that, but we also wanted the provisions that would address when it was required, and that kind of led to lines 13 through 15, that little paragraph right below it, to, even though it may not be required, that the principal would still be responsible for the accounting of those fundraising activities, and that it would be conducted in accordance with Tennessee School Internal Fund Policy Manual. So let me just kind of wrap it up this way, that I felt it was important that we get that second sentence in where we talk about that it must be prepared and filed. But we also had to acknowledge that there was a provision in Tennessee school policy that says when it's just for general operation of the school, that it's not required. That's not to say that they are precluded from accounting for that. It's just that they do not have to file this particular report.
Okay, and so one more question.
Sure.
According to line 9, regarding the individual club or class account, so an SSO, so they would not need to file a summary. Is that correct?
Let's see. If it's not for a designated purpose, right? So, right. So if it's not for a specific purpose, I may have to lean in on Mr. Dupler here to make sure I'm saying this right. That would be my understanding. But I will say it this way. If, based on the Tennessee Open Records Act even, that if there has to be still transparency. So if someone says, I want to see how those dollars were spent, that would have to be provided. It's just that this formal report is not what is required for that.
Okay, thank you. I think that answers my question. Do we have other questions?
Madam Chair, if I may, Mr. McPherson's correct on what he's saying pursuant to the Open Records Act. And I would also add that Ms. Owen and I were looking at D250, which is a separate policy on school support organizations. And again, this policy would apply, but it would be a recommendation from our office that a line be placed in D250 stating that this policy does apply specifically due to online fundraising. That would clarify that issue in the future. But as it is, this policy can go ahead and be judged on its own merits, and then we can add that line in the other.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dupler. Do we have other comments? Ms. Owen?
I would just add that in that school support organization policy, we do have a line that says that any forms, annual reports, or financial statements submitted by an SSO shall be open to public inspection as a public record. So we would not hold it, but it would be open.
Correct. Thank you. Ms. Hill?
So to be clear, it does then take care of a situation like Mr. Dingus is talking about?
I'm not sure, Ms. Hill, maybe the situation, okay, I see what you're saying.
Our speaker, yes.
Right, potentially. I would really like to defer to Mr. Dupler, and so we could talk about this, but it sounds like with regards to that policy, yes, it would.
All right.
But I'm gonna I'm gonna defer to legal on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Hill. I mean, what this policy does, I mean, as was cited by the speaker and as was talked about last week, the state has said that the board has to have some policy on online fundraising to allow it. This particular policy, as written, particularly with the revision, allows online fundraising, but it also puts some controls on it, and the controls are with the principal at the individual school and also with the director of schools or his designee, which my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McPherson, would be Garrett Radin, particularly for school support organizations. So it does allow it, but the schools and the district can maintain some control. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have other questions? Ms. Babb?
Mr. Dupler, seeing as this is of some urgency for some of our school organizations, is there a way to go ahead with changing the language of adding the SSOs and adding Ms. Owen's language about the open records with it? I mean, could we go ahead and vote without a second reading on this to be approved tonight, or does it have to wait till a second reading?
Thank you, Ms. Babb. The motion could be amended to allow for a first reading only. And so, yes, I mean, the answer is that is possible for the board to do.
Thank you. Ms. Owen?
I'm not adding language. I'm clarifying that language already exists in our SSO policy.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so is there any other comments? Ms. Babb?
Can I move to pass this on a first reading? Other language I need?
Would you like to amend the motion first to include her?
Yes, I'd like to amend the motion to approve this on a first reading with the addition of adding language about the SSO being allowed for the online fundraising.
Thank you. Ms. Owen, what was the reference number on that policy? D250?
D250.
Thank you. Okay, is there a second?
Second that.
Okay, Ms. Hill seconds. Okay, is there discussion on the amended policy? Mr. Norman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ron, speak to this now. You've already mentioned that you're more comfortable in terms of this being a first reading, so you're implying.
I'm sorry if I have implied that. What I was saying is if the board was not comfortable with if there's not enough specificity with regards to SSO, that we would have, with a second reading, we would have time to put that language in. But I'm comfortable with it as is. If the board is, I'm fine with it.
You're good with it?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dupler's good with it? Law Director, you good with it?
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Yes, I feel like, so as we talked about last week, Mr. McPherson and I, this was pulled from a TSBA form. We've now had a chance to go back and modify it for Knox County Schools purposes, and it is effective for what has been expressed needs to be done, which is allow online fundraising.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so first we need to vote on the amendment. So, Mr. Dupler, can you clarify what we're voting on? Make sure we're all on the same page.
So we have an amended motion, so the board needs to vote on the amendment, which is adding the SSO language pursuant to D-250 and to pass this on first reading only without a second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Dupler. Okay, so you heard that statement. And is there any other discussion before we vote? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Now we need to go back and vote on the original agenda item. Is that correct? The original motion as amended. So this means we are voting on whether to pass this policy forward. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay. Ms. Coatney.
Okay, 6B, approve first reading to rescind Knox County Board of Education Policy J440, fundraising activities.
Do we have a motion? And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion from Ms. Hill, second from Mr. Norman, and discussion. Ms. Owen.
In that last motion, did we actually make it good on the first reading? Was
Yes.
that part of the motion?
Yes.
I wanted to make sure we did that before we rescinded.
Yes, so to clarify, we said that we will pass the policy D-280. We passed on first reading, and therefore now schools have the ability to fundraise online. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, and so now we have a first and second on policy J440. Let's see, I'm sorry. Oh, we're rescinding that, correct? Okay, so we have a policy. Is there any discussion or comment on this? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
6C, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J194, zero tolerance offenses as amended.
So moved.
Okay, we have a first. Do we clarify the version? Okay, and can you clarify which version you're making a motion on?
I move to consider version 3.
Okay, do we have a second on version 3?
I'll second.
Christie seconds on version 3. Okay, and discussion. Mr. McMillan? Oh, I'm sorry, wait just a moment. Do we have a public speaker? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question for the law director. It defines assault and all these things and tells what the punishments will be if thus and so takes place. Who decides whether an assault has taken place? The individual principal or who?
Mr. Dupler?
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Thank you, Madam Chair. So there's a due process procedure, and that would start at the school level, and it starts with a hearing officer at the school level, usually a principal either in the building or outside the building that has not investigated the matter, and if a parent or a student is not satisfied with that decision, it then goes up from there. It goes to the district level hearing officer, and then an appeal from there would go to the director of schools, and eventually another appeal would go to the board.
Okay, but theoretically, you could have the same situation occur at two different schools. Let's just say high schools. You could have a situation occur at two different high schools with different results. Could you not?
I would say the answer would be yes. I mean, with humans applying these rules, I mean that could certainly be the case. I think with the zero tolerance, though, the state legislature has tried to put, more specificity around it. I could see a more probability from what you're questioning, Mr. McMillan, toward maybe a simple assault, which would fall under the discipline guidelines as opposed to zero tolerance.
Well, I'm not a simple assault. What does that carry as far as the punishment on a simple assault? I can't remember.
Under the guidelines, it carries anywhere from 5 to 45 days, depending upon how it's graded.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether it was 5 to 10 or what, but it would. Either way, there's whoever at school level is initially making the decision would have quite a bit of leeway. Correct?
Are you talking about for zero tolerance?
No, I'm talking about something that's less than zero tolerance.
Yes. I think a school level administrator does have significant leeway under zero tolerance. Yes. I mean, but once you arise to that level of zero tolerance, that's the state stepping in and saying this is what you need to do, school administrator. Yeah.
But there could be situations where an employee was struck, and somebody would have to determine whether it was, intentional, non-intentional, accidental, whatever, and that's where you get into that. That's what kind of bothers me, because as you said, we're dealing with humans, and I understand that, but I think that probably in doing that, there might not be, but without a clear-cut definition, I can foresee one administrator punishing probably more than another. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hill? Okay. Never. Okay, it's still on. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Mr. Norman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I need the law director to separate aggravated assault from assault. As it's written in here in Part C, it starts with commits aggravated assault or commits assault and intentionally, knowingly, blah, blah, blah. What's the difference? I see the definition. Why is the definition there? And I guess why is, okay, just tell me what's going on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Norman. Okay, so there was that question at one time, and then so that's why the definition of aggravated assault was added, and that's, of course, that's both in version 2 and version 3, but we're just talking about version 3 right now. Aggravated assault clearly goes a step beyond an assault. An assault is basically defined as an unwanted touching, and that could include several things. That could include pushing, that could include striking with a fist, that could include spitting on someone. I mean, so an assault, those things would be defined as a simple assault, and the discipline guidelines talk about those. But when you get into an aggravated assault, as you can see by the definition, okay, if we need to, yeah. I'm being told that Ms. Satterfield was lost, so.
We'll give her
Madam
a
Chair.
moment and try to find her. We'll give her a couple minutes.
All right,
Try to
I'll
find
pause.
Ms. Satterfield. There she is. Wonderful. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Dupler. Thank you.
Thank you. But as you can see with the aggravated assault, I mean, we're we're talking about something very serious. So a serious bodily injury would be like a stabbing or breaking of limbs. I mean, significant injury, or using a firearm or another deadly weapon like a large knife or something like that, or attempt strangulation. And this is straight out of the Tennessee Code.
Okay. And I'm not for putting zero tolerance on anybody that bumps somebody or something like that. But anybody that strikes anybody and then I get concerned about, well, serious bodily injury. It might not be serious bodily injury. It might just be a serious bruise or something. But if they're struck, that's assault, and it should be addressed as zero tolerance. I don't want that type of thing to be taken out of the policy. I don't know how to distinguish serious bodily injury. I mean, I know what that is, but if somebody's struck, they need to be gone. That person needs to be gone. So I don't want this version of this policy to prevent that or take that away as one of our options in terms of discipline.
Mr. Dupler, would you like to speak to that? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Norman. This policy just covers what the state legislature has said, this is what you must do. So the state legislature has not put specific controls on when there is an assault, like what you're talking about, Mr. Norman. So if you have an assault and maybe it leaves a bruise, then I think your analysis at that point is going to be, or the hearing officer's analysis is going to be, okay, what was the intent? Or was it intentional? Was it a complete accident? I mean, so that's going to be the next analysis as far as figuring out what type of punishment would be under the discipline guidelines.
So with this policy, if the hearing officer determines that it was an intentional act, then more than likely it would fit under zero tolerance.
Yes, if it causes some type of bodily injury, and it doesn't have to be serious.
An intentional act that would cause some kind of bodily injury that would fit under zero tolerance.
That's correct, and that's what the state legislature has said. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Owen.
Mr. Dipler, that would be for students over 7, is that correct?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Owen.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, you and I had talked about this policy as well in the state law. Children under 7 are unable to form an intent to commit such an act, so those children would be excluded. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dupler.
I want to be sure we're really clear that this.
Your mic is not on, Jennifer. Try again.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to be clear. This is talking about being moved to an alternative placement for not less than a year. So it would be extremely serious. Other kinds of disciplinary action would be handled under our discipline policy. That's correct? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion. Okay, we have one. And Ms. Satterfield, is she still on? No, we've lost her. Are we trying to get her back?
She has something, so she said she's good.
Okay, so we have. Where was that? Motion carries 7-1. I don't think so. So we'll verify that whether or not Ms. Satterfield voted before she left us or not. So currently the vote is 7-1. It could change from 8-1, but she will not be voting on any other items from this point forward. Okay, and Ms. Coatney will continue. Thank you.
Item 7A, approve Tennessee Department of Education Safe Schools Grant for 2019-2020 in the amount of $1,076,696.46 with required matching funds of $491,070 that will be provided by in-kind services from the Knox County Sheriff's Office and Knoxville Police Department.
So moved.
We have Mr. Norman made the motion and Ms. Hill seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
7B, approve Tennessee Department of Human Services grant contract and grant in the amount of $100,932.75 for provision of pre-employment transition services school to work program with required matching funds in the amount of $27,317.25 for the term of October 1, 2019 through September 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Hill seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
7C, approve IDEA discretionary grant in the amount of $50,348.30 for provision of progress monitoring and related staff development for fiscal year 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Ms. Christie. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
7D, approve 21st Century Community Learning Center grant for after-school programming at Christenberry and Pond Gap Elementary Schools in the amount of $323,989 for July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
7E, approve 21st Century Community Learning Center grant for after-school programming at Inskip Elementary School in the amount of $110,500 for July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
7F, approve memoranda of understanding with Boys and Girls Clubs of Tennessee Valley for a receipt of up to $600,000 in funding from a 2019-2020 21st Century Community Learning Center grant to be used for salaries, taxes, and wages of part-time tutors at Carter, Dogwood, Lonsdale, Maynard, Norwood, South Knoxville, West Haven, and West Hills Elementary Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
7G, approve Walmart Community Grant in the amount of $1,000 for Halls High School's library.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
7H, approve Walmart Community Grant in the amount of $500 for Halls High School's robotics program.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
7I, approve Simon Youth Foundation Enhancement Grant in the amount of $5,744.20 for Dr. Paul L. Kelly Volunteer Academy.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
7J, approve donation of $25,500 from the West Valley Middle School Education Foundation designated for the purchase of technology for West Valley Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8A, approve amendment to Helen Ross McNabb Center Incorporated contract for provision of mental health and treatment management services.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
9A, approve resolution supporting an increase in teacher salaries under the basic education program.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Oh,
We have a second?
second.
Okay. And we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll just speak to that. I think making this motion to approve this resolution supports and encourages the other boards across the state of Tennessee to do the same. I think it sends a message to those with the authority to increase the salary component under the BEP, which is still underfunded with teacher ratios, to equal at least the amount of public dollars that are now going to be spent on vouchers.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bounds. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Would we like to do a roll call on this, please, Ms. Coatney?
Ms. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Norman?
Pass.
Ms. Babb?
Yes.
Ms. Horn?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Bounds?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
No.
And Ms. Christie?
Yes.
Okay.
That's 6 yes votes, 1 no vote, 1 pass. Mr. Norman, would you like to?
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Item 9B, approve revision to the 2020-2021 school calendar.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
9C, discussion and possible action on ACES training.
I think we completed that last time, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes all the agenda items. And do we have anyone signed up for public forum?
Yes, we do. Peyton Dendy. If you will state your name and county of residence, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Peyton Dendy, and I'm a Knox County resident. I would first like to thank the Board of Education for allowing me to speak tonight, and I will be speaking on behalf of Project Grad Knoxville. As previously stated, my name is Peyton Dendy, and I'm also a Project Grad scholar. I stood in this same spot in March of 2018 to attest to the greatness Project Grad has produced in support of the continued funding of the program. Today, I have come to use my voice once more to give some highlights of my post-secondary education journey as a Project Grad scholar and to assure everyone in this room that Project Grad is still making an impact in this community. When I spoke last year in March, I was 2 months shy of completing my last semester of my junior year of college at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. Since then, I went on to start and complete my senior year of college, graduating magna cum laude with a 3.71 GPA and a bachelor's degree in English creative writing in May of this year. Since graduation, I applied for 3 internship positions with Pellissippi State Community College, which I ecstatically accepted. In my role as one of the graduate interns for New Student Orientation Program, I was able to do what Project Grad does for the scholars they serve, make students feel welcome and let them know that they can go to college and be successful. Upon my completion of my internship, I will be attending Eastern Kentucky University to earn my Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. I say all of this not to brag on myself, but to applaud Project Grad for believing in scholars like me and helping us along our journey to earn our post-secondary education. Project Grad offers continuous support to students as they matriculate through school that they may prepare students for a brighter future. This program supports students from elementary to high school, as many of us know, but they do not stop there. Being that the GRAD in Project Grad is an acronym for Graduation Really Achieves Dreams, the support of this program continues past high school graduation. The Project Grad team works to assure that their scholars know that they have the potential to continue their education. To date, 542 scholars have completed their post-secondary education, and 46% of grad scholarship recipients have completed their post-secondary education, which is 36% higher than the national percentage of similar students weighing in at 10%. I'm fortunate to be in that percentage of scholars who have completed their post-secondary education. I have also been fortunate to be a Project Grad Scholar, beginning at Spring Hill Elementary and continuing at Austin East High School, where I was given 2 opportunities to be a part of 2 summer institutes that instilled in me the resources and confidence I would need to go on and complete my post-secondary education. Being able to attend the institutes held at Pellissippi State Community College and the University of Tennessee, Knoxville propelled my thinking past high school and on to college, so much so that when I began to attend North Carolina A&T in the fall of 2015, I was prepared. Project Grad has put people in place to make sure the transition from high school to college is as easy as it can be. I know those people as college and career success coaches, like Ms. Annette Long and Ms. Jasmine Seiler. They are the ones who helped set up my scholarship, gave me crucial financial aid advice, sent me letters of encouragement and care packages all 4 years of college, and they, along with the entire Project Grad team, are the ones who gifted me my Project Grad stole at the end of my college experience, which read, "Don't just go, finish." And that is exactly what they helped me do. They saw fit to look out for me while I went to college out of state, and it truly made my college experience that much more comfortable. As I close, I would like to thank the Executive Director of Project Grad Knoxville, Mrs. Ronnie Chandler, and the whole Project Grad Knoxville team for everything they have done for me, but especially for supporting me on my post-secondary education journey. In the content of the things I have presented before you all this evening, I hope you all see clearly how much of a gift Project Grad Knoxville still is to this community, and that this precious gem is one that should be shared with as many students as possible. Thank you.
Lance McCold. Please state your name and county of residence.
Good evening, Lance McCold, Knox County. Thank you for taking time to listen to me. I guess as you all know, I work with a few community groups around the Knox County schools mostly. One of the things, I've been talking to people from a number of the groups, and what everybody is concerned about most this year is transparency. Transparency of what's going on in our schools and administration. But I want to point out that I guess I want to commend the progress that this board and this administration has already made. In particular, Ms. Bounds, while she was chair, saw to it the agendas were delivered to the public, posted more in a more timely fashion. I have to say, a couple of times I've had comments that I sent to board members, and they said, "Oh gosh, I wish I'd seen these comments a few days ago," and well, it takes time to put together good comments, and if you don't get the information about it until near the last minute, it's pretty hard to do anything but the last minute. So it was a significant improvement, and I want to commend her for that. And Ms. Hill, while she's been chair, she's also raised the bar. She's encouraged the staff and the administration to increase transparency, and we have seen some of that. And she's also made the board's agenda setting meeting an open meeting, which is a good thing. I've attended the last one, and I learned quite a bit. And I think it's really a good thing that it's open. And now I'm confident that Ms. Horn is going to carry us to another higher level. And I also want to recognize the progress that the administration has done under Mr. Thomas's leadership. I've been engaging with the schools for several years now, and I found that this last year that the staff has been more open and effort to be transparent than I've seen in the past. So it's a good thing. Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas, for your leadership. I'm sure you'll hear more from me and others about the importance of transparency. I've heard people say that, oh, the people in the community and the parents, they just don't really care. And I don't believe that is the case at all. Often they don't show up. They've got lots of reasons. You've got kids at home and jobs to do and stuff like that. But a lot of the reason that the community doesn't show up is because they just don't know what's going on. And I think that the greater the transparency we see from the board, from the staff, from the administration, the more you're going to see an engaged and supportive community. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public forum.
Thank you. And that, let's have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are.